So it's finally time to take a look at the AVQ270S from a company called Atron Vision. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Tech Yes City. This is Brian coming to you guys today with a 1440p 27-inch monitor review. Now this is a company in America called Atron Vision, and they're supplying essentially Korean panels with local warranty and some extra features added on. And I'm going to talk about what these features are, and in the end of the video I will give my subjective opinion and conclusion on this monitor. However, before that we'll talk about the features and what you get in the box with this monitor. So as soon as you open this out of the box, you'll notice that it comes packaged extremely well. They've packaged foam around all sides of the monitor so it doesn't get damaged in shipping, which is really important on monitors. I do take note of that. You also get the power charger included there and a 1.5 meter dual link DVI cable. Also included is a plastic stand which is pretty sturdy and will allow a tilt adjustment there, though it will not allow swivel or height adjustment, and the natural height off the desk measured in at about 70 millimeters. However, looking on the back, you'll notice that it is VESA compatible there, so you're able to mount these to a variety of stands, whether it be on the wall or on your desk, which I do highly recommend with these monitors because 70 millimeters is not sufficient on most desks in my opinion. Now while we're on the back of the monitor, we'll quickly look at the coating there. It's like a matte reptilian skin finish, and I'm actually a big fan of this because it doesn't fingerprint at all and it actually looks pretty sleek. Looking at the connectors there, with this model you also get the ability to connect HDMI audio in there. You've also got dual DVI support, VGA support, and a display port there as well. So a lot of options there for connectivity. Also at the top there you've got vent holes to allow heat to dissipate from the monitor, and also at the bottom there on the right and bottom left sides you have the speaker holes there, which are 5 watts on each speaker. Now coming onto the front of the monitor there, you've got a 25mm thick bezel there surrounding the whole monitor, and then on the bottom there you've got the Atron Vision logo with a little bit of an extra bezel there, which is a brushed plastic. Now looking at the bottom of the monitor, you've got 7 different buttons there which will allow you to navigate the OSD and turn the monitor on and off, and they all have great feedback to them. Going into the OSD, however, will reveal different options there with the ability to change the brightness and contrast, with the max brightness being 100, and I found that this was good for everyday use. So I would like to see a bit more brightness coming out of this monitor, even though it was supposedly rated at 300 CCD. Now looking at the contrast there, I like to leave that on 50, and then going down to the colors, it actually comes pretty close to perfectly calibrated out of the box, which is a great thing about a lot of these IPS panels. So you don't really have to play with the colors there, though you do have the option there to change the low blue light filter on 1, 2, or 3, and I found at the max 3 setting it did cut down the blue light by quite a bit, so people will be happy to know if they need to change this on the fly without using flux, then they can use this low blue light filter with ease. However, the OSD in general was a little bit cumbersome, and I found myself having a little bit of a tough time navigating through all the different features, especially if I wanted to do things quickly. Though that being said, there's also the option there to have a heads-up display regardless of what game you're playing. So I think no-scope snipers will love this option. You can change between 3 different styles, either red or yellow, and you can also change different modes on the monitor, with the game mode giving you more gamma and more contrast in general. Looking at the panel itself, this is where all the magic happens here. We have a 27-inch 1440p panel, which is 2560 by 1440 pixels. And also on that note, it's from AUO, which make the AHVA panel, which differs slightly from the AH-IPS from LG. And the benefits of this is that it is a little bit more responsive. I especially found this in the tests that I did, and also in games as well. Now the colors are all pretty similar as well, though I will give the edge to the AH-IPS panel. Though on that note, both these panels have much better colors than TN in contrast. Further on that note though, the viewing angles I found were not that good in practice. I found that the viewing angles on my AH-IPS panels were far superior than both this panel and the TN panel I had downstairs. Now looking at the backlight bleed there, when you pull up a black image there, we've got a little bit of backlight bleed coming out of the bottom center of the monitor there, which did not affect anything in practice. I didn't notice it in real world conditions, and it was interesting that if I did press it down, I could massage it out a little bit, so I will work on getting rid of it completely. Though looking at my AH-IPS panel, that has virtually none. Looking at the white uniformity levels there, they are pretty good. However, you might notice from the photo that there's a little bit of shift going on there, but nothing that's going to stop you or distract you in everyday gaming or work. Looking at input lag and overclocking, the input lag inherent to this panel is, I'd have to guesstimate, about 20 milliseconds. It was about 10 milliseconds slower than the AH-IPS panels that I have here with no input scalers built in. So If I had to guesstimate, it would be around about 20 milliseconds. You can see from the test here, it was performing about 10 milliseconds behind the AH-IPS panels. So whether that is due to the input scaler or not, I don't know, as I don't have another panel without an input scaler built in on this particular model. However, onto overclocking, I found that this model could lock in overclocks, though it wasn't stable. It was actually frame skipping at anything above 60 Hz, which essentially means that the overclocks are going to be useless to the average person. I noticed that on my other Korean panel here, it could overclock to 66 Hz, no problems, which means it wasn't a software-based problem. It was more of a hardware-based problem in that this has the input scaler built in. Also, some little things that I didn't touch on, you have HDMI 1.4V there, which will allow 2560 by 1440 at 60 Hz to be displayed on this panel absolutely fine. You've also got the option there for virtual 4K, which ultimately comes from the graphics card, though it is printed on the box there, so I feel like mentioning it. And it will give you a 4K experience if you're used to using 4K monitors, and for instance, you need to edit videos or whatnot, or if you just have an overpowering graphics card and you want to get a slightly better picture on your display. Lastly, before we move on to a conclusion, I will quickly touch on the coating of the monitor itself. It is a matte finish, or I'd like to call it a light matte finish, because it did a great job of blocking out reflections, but also giving out a really good picture, and that it didn't spoil the colors too much. So great job on the coating there. And now it's conclusion time, and I'm going to tell you about my subjective opinion on the AVQ270S and whether I would recommend it to buy or not. Now, in the past week of using this panel, I'm very impressed with it. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of the Korean 1440p panels, and this is essentially what this is based off. If you guys know the QNX 2710, that is a fantastic panel for the money. Yeah. And some of those models can be overclocked, and that's the models without the scalers. Though this one has a scaler built in, which allows for more inputs. More specifically, you get the option there of DisplayPort, HDMI, and VGA as well. So that's a good thing in that you have more inputs, though it does introduce a little bit more input lag. And another good thing about that, though, is that the DVI port were to go in years' time, you've got other inputs there that you can use and still get the most out of your panel. Now, back onto the panel itself, you do have that gorgeous 1440p panel, which has better colors, a lot better than TN, though it's just not as good as the AH-IPS by a little bit, though it does have better response times than the AH-IPS. So in my opinion, it's a perfect balance for the gamer looking for a great experience, but also looking to still be competitive. So now it's rating time. This is where I'm going to just give it an overall general rating. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars. I think the extra features are really good, like the low blue light filter, the heads-up display, especially that heads-up display being aimed at gamers. I thought that this is where I was detracting a star away, because you are putting the scaler on this model, which does give a little bit more input lag than normal, as well as the fact that this model doesn't overclock. Well, it does overclock, though it does skip frames, anything over the standard 60 Hz base there. So that's where I'm going to be knocking off a star for those 2 points. I think the extra money that you pay over the QNX is well justified if you want something that's going to ship locally and also have that warranty and peace of mind. So great solution here from Atron Vision ultimately, and for $320, it is a good buy if you're looking for a sweet spot monitor that can pretty much do it all. So anyway guys, if you have any questions or comments about this monitor, then drop a comment in the comments section below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And also don't forget to subscribe to Tech Yes City for all the latest tech news and reviews. Peace out for now, bye. And also I'll put the links in the description below where you can check out this monitor as well if you wish to purchase it. I'll also put the link in there for the eBay QNX as well to give you guys the choice of what you want to do. Remember, the power is yours, young Padawan. Or an Elder Jedi, it just depends on what your orientation is. Or are you a Sith?